Samantha Reeves looked out the viewport as the ship approached Nexus Station. The massive structure floated in space like a shining metal flower, its petals extending outward to welcome ships from across the galaxy. At 24, she was the youngest xenobiologist on Earth's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Confederation. "Amazing, isn't it?" said Captain Jack Nelson, standing beside her. His weathered face showed both excitement and worry. Hundreds of alien species in one place, and we're the new kids on the block. Samantha nodded, her brown eyes wide with wonder. "I've studied them for years, but seeing them in person—" Her voice trailed off as a ship 3 times their size glided past, its hull covered in what looked like living moss. The voice of Marie Wells, Earth's ambassador, came through the ship's speakers. "All personnel report to the briefing room. We dock in 30 minutes." In the crowded room, Ambassador Wells stood straight-backed and serious. "Remember, we represent all of humanity. The Confederation sees us as primitives who just figured out faster-than-light travel. We need to prove we belong at the table." "What about the Drakari?" asked a nervous diplomat. "I heard they run everything." The ambassador's face tightened. "The Drakari have controlled the Confederation for over 5,000 years. They're warriors, predators. Think of Earth's ancient reptiles, but with advanced technology and a strict honor code. Their supreme commander, Vexthor, has ruled for 2 centuries. Samantha raised her hand. "Do we know why they invited us to join? We don't have much to offer militarily." "Good question," said Wells. "Officially, they recognize our potential. Unofficially," she paused, "they might see us as useful pets. Don't take offense if they treat us like children. Our goal is diplomatic relations, not pride." When they docked, Samantha couldn't stop staring. The station's docking bay was enormous, filled with creatures from her wildest dreams. Tall, thin aliens with 4 arms directed traffic. Small, furry beings scurried between legs carrying tools and packages. A group of blue-skinned humanoids nodded politely as the humans passed. One of them whispered something, and they all laughed. "What did they say?" Jack asked their guide, a translator named Zeke who looked almost human except for his silver skin and lack of ears. "They said humans look soft," Zeke replied with an apologetic smile. "Like babies." They were led through wide corridors to a vast chamber where hundreds of representatives gathered. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared in mist, and strange plants grew from the walls. In the center was a raised platform surrounded by what looked like thrones of various sizes and shapes. Samantha noticed that all the aliens kept their distance from one area. There stood the Drakari delegation. Even from across the room, they were impressive. Standing 8 feet tall with powerful bodies covered in scales that shimmered between green and gold, they wore minimal armor that showed off their natural protection. Their faces were angled, with vertical pupils and yellow eyes and small horn-like projections on their heads. "That's Supreme Commander Vexthor," whispered Zeke, pointing to the largest Drakari. Vexthor towered over his own kind. Scars crossed his scales, and a cape of strange metal hung from his massive shoulders. His eyes constantly scanned the room like a predator looking for weakness. "The welcome ceremony will begin soon," said Zeke. "Remember, keep your eyes down when the Supreme Commander speaks. Direct eye contact is considered a challenge." Ambassador Wells led the human delegation forward. Samantha stayed in the middle of the group, her heart racing with excitement rather than fear. This was why she had spent her life studying alien biology, to understand these incredible beings. As they took their positions, Vexthor's yellow eyes swept over them dismissively. Samantha couldn't help herself. Pure scientific curiosity made her look directly at him, studying his features, wondering how his species had evolved. Their eyes met. Vexthor went completely still. The room suddenly fell silent. Every alien stared at the human girl who had just challenged the most dangerous being in the galaxy. The humans around Samantha sensed the change in the room. Ambassador Wells grabbed her arm and tried to pull her back, but it was too late. Vexthor moved with shocking speed for his size, pushing through the crowd toward the human delegation. "What did I do?" Samantha whispered, her eyes still locked with the Drakari leader's yellow gaze. "Eye contact," hissed Zeke, backing away. It's a direct challenge to his authority. No one has dared for 50 years. The crowd parted as Vexthor approached. His tail swung behind him, knocking over a small alien who didn't move fast enough. Up close, the Supreme Commander was even more intimidating. Heat seemed to radiate from his body, and his scales shifted colors with his breathing. "Do you know what you have done, human?" His voice was surprisingly smooth but filled with cold anger. The translator in Samantha's ear worked perfectly. Captain Jack stepped forward. "Sir," she meant no offense. "We're new to your customs and—" A single look from Vexthor silenced him. The Drakari leader focused entirely on Samantha. "You look at me as an equal," he said. "You, a soft creature from a backwater world." Samantha knew she should be terrified. Everyone around her was. Even the other Drakari kept their distance, watching with what looked like excitement. But her scientific mind was too busy noticing details. The way Vexthor's pupils narrowed to slits in the light. How his scales flushed darker at the edges when he spoke. The four-fingered hands with retractable claws now partially extended. "I'm sorry if I broke a rule," she said calmly. "I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien life. Looking at new species is my job." A murmur ran through the watching crowd. No one apologized to Vexthor like that, as if he were simply mistaken rather than rightfully angry. The Supreme Commander tilted his head, studying her with new interest. "You do not fear me." Samantha considered this. "I respect your physical advantages. But fear? No. You're a fascinating biological specimen." Ambassador Wells looked ready to faint. The other humans had backed away, leaving Samantha standing alone. Zeke had completely disappeared. "Specimen." Vexthor's voice dropped lower. The crest on his head raised slightly, and his nostrils flared. "Do you know how many beings I have killed for less disrespect?" "I don't mean to disrespect you," Samantha replied. "Where I come from, scientific curiosity is a compliment." One of the other Drakari stepped forward slightly. "Supreme Commander, perhaps the human female is simple-minded. Their species is very young." Vexthor made a sharp sound that might have been a laugh. "No, this one has steel in her. She does not lower her eyes even now." He circled Samantha slowly. "Tell me, human female, on your world, what happens when a lesser creature challenges the apex predator?" Samantha turned to keep facing him. "On Earth, sometimes the smaller creature runs away. Sometimes it fights back. Sometimes it finds an unexpected advantage." "And which will you do?" Vexthor asked, his claws now fully extended. The room had gone completely silent. Hundreds of aliens watched, many recording the scene. First contact between humans and the ruling Drakari had turned into something no one expected. Samantha knew she should be diplomatic. She should bow, apologize properly, follow protocol. But something in her refused to back down to bullying, even from an 8-foot alien warlord. "I'm not running," she said simply. Vexthor's mouth curved into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then by the ancient laws of the Drakari and the Confederation, I accept your challenge." Before anyone could move or speak, the Supreme Commander raised his massive clawed hand. The ceremonial guards made no move to stop him. This was, apparently, perfectly legal. "Wait," Ambassador Wells shouted. "This is a misunderstanding." Vexthor ignored her. His eyes never left Samantha's face. "Our worlds will remember what happens next," he said. And then he struck. Time seemed to slow down as Vexthor's massive clawed hand swept toward Samantha. The humans cried out in horror. Many aliens turned away, not wanting to see the human female torn apart. Even the other Drakari watched with cold interest, expecting their leader to make quick work of this soft creature. Samantha saw the strike coming but couldn't move fast enough. Vex Thor's claws connected with her shoulder and chest, the impact lifting her off her feet. The force should have cut her in half. But something unexpected happened. Instead of tearing through her flesh, Samantha's body absorbed the blow in a strange way. She flew backward several feet, landing hard on the polished floor, but she was whole, alive, conscious. A gasp went through the crowd. Vex Thor stood frozen, his attack stance held, yellow eyes wide with confusion. Samantha lay on her back, equally surprised. Pain radiated through her body, but it wasn't the deadly wound it should have been. She looked down and saw that her uniform was torn, revealing reddened skin beneath, but no deep cuts, no fatal damage. "How?" someone in the crowd whispered. Samantha slowly pushed herself up to a sitting position. Her whole body felt strange, hot, tingling, as if every cell was suddenly awake and changing. She didn't understand what was happening, but her scientific mind registered the facts. The blow that should have killed her had instead triggered something within her. Vex Thor recovered from his shock and moved toward her again. "Impossible," he growled. "No species can withstand a direct strike from a Drakari warrior, let alone the Supreme Commander." Samantha stood up, surprised at how steady she felt. The pain was already fading, replaced by a surge of energy she'd never experienced before. Her vision sharpened. She could hear the breathing of aliens 20 feet away. Every muscle in her body felt coiled and ready. "Perhaps humans are more durable than you thought," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. The crowd had recovered from its initial shock and now buzzed with excitement. Many were sending messages on small devices, spreading the news across the station and beyond. Vex Thor circled her again, but more cautiously this time. "A lucky accident," he said. "It will not happen twice." He flexed his claws, which gleamed under the lights of the Great Hall. What happened next surprised everyone, including Samantha herself. As Vex Thor lunged forward for a second attack, her body moved on its own. With speed she never knew she possessed, she stepped to the side, avoiding his claws completely. The movement felt natural, instinctive, as if her muscles knew what to do without her brain's input. Vex Thor's momentum carried him forward. For just a second, he was off balance. In that moment, Samantha's hand shot out, her fingers stiffened in a precise strike. She had never fought anyone in her life, had no combat training whatsoever, yet somehow she knew exactly where to hit. Her hand struck a spot at the base of Vex Thor's skull, right where the scales formed a small pattern different from the rest. It was a neural cluster, the central weakness in Drakari physiology. Knowledge no human should possess. The impact was small compared to Vex Thor's massive blow. Just 5 human fingers against the tough hide of the galaxy's most feared warrior. But it was perfectly placed. The Supreme Commander's yellow eyes widened. A strange sound escaped his throat. His massive body began to fall forward. The Great Hall went completely silent. Hundreds of aliens, dozens of species, diplomats and warriors, and merchants all watched as the ruler of the Galactic Confederation toppled toward the floor. Vex Thor, who had conquered 12 worlds and killed countless challengers, was dead before his body hit the ground. And Samantha Reeves, xenobiologist from Earth, stood over him, her hand still extended, looking as shocked as everyone else. For several heartbeats, no one moved. Samantha stared at her own hand, then at the fallen Drakari leader. The silence in the Great Hall was absolute, as if everyone had stopped breathing at once. "What have I done?" she whispered. Her mind raced to understand what had just happened. How had she known where to strike? How had her body moved with such speed and precision? The spell broke when Ambassador Wells rushed forward. This was an accident, she shouted to the assembled aliens. A terrible misunderstanding. Earth apologizes for. She stopped speaking when the Drakari warriors moved. Instead of attacking Samantha as everyone expected, they did something shocking. As one, they dropped to one knee before her, heads bowed. Captain Jack pushed through the crowd to Samantha's side. "What's happening?" he asked, looking ready to defend her if needed. Zeke the translator had reappeared, his silver skin now pale with shock. "They're pledging loyalty," he explained, his voice shaking. "According to the oldest Drakari laws, whoever kills the Supreme Commander in ritual combat becomes the new leader." "That's ridiculous," Ambassador Wells said. "She's human, not Drakari." "The law doesn't specify species," Zeke replied. "It's never been needed before. No non-Drakari has ever defeated their leader." The oldest of the Drakari warriors, his scales faded to a dull green-gray, approached Samantha. Unlike the others, he did not kneel, but he kept his eyes lowered. "I am General Razik, First Claw of the Drakari fleet," he said formally. "You have slain Vexthor in honorable combat. The throne of the Supreme Commander is yours by right of victory." Samantha shook her head. "No, this was a mistake. I didn't mean to kill him. I don't want his throne." Razik looked up at her words, surprise visible even on his alien face. "Want has nothing to do with it. The law is absolute. You struck the killing blow. You knew the secret weakness no outsider should know. The throne is yours." Other alien delegations had begun to recover from their shock. Some were leaving the hall quickly, rushing to report to their worlds. Others pushed closer, trying to see the human female who had done the impossible. A group of blue-skinned beings, the same ones who had laughed at the humans earlier, now bowed deeply as they passed Samantha. "They fear you now," Jack said quietly. "Everyone does." "But they shouldn't," Samantha protested. "I don't even know what I did or how I did it." Ambassador Wells pulled her aside, speaking urgently. "This is a disaster. The Drakari control half the galaxy. They have the largest fleet in known space. If they think we assassinated their leader, they could destroy Earth." "But it wasn't assassination," Samantha said. "He attacked me." "That won't matter if they decide to retaliate," Wells replied. Her face was pale with worry. "Our ships, our defenses, they're nothing compared to the Drakari." General Razik approached them again. "Supreme Commander," he addressed Samantha, "the body must be prepared for the rites of passage. Then you must address the Confederation. All worlds will want to know the path the Drakari will take under your leadership." "This is insane," Jack muttered. "Sam's a scientist, not a ruler." But Samantha was starting to think more clearly now. The strange energy that had filled her during the fight was fading, but her mind worked faster than ever. If she rejected the position, it might be seen as an insult to Drakari tradition. If Earth appeared weak or disrespectful now, it could mean war. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Razik. "I need to speak with my people first. Then I will address the Confederation." The general placed his fist over his chest in salute. "As you command, Supreme Commander." As he walked away, Samantha turned to the stunned human delegation. "I think I just became the ruler of the most powerful species in the galaxy," she said. "And I have no idea what happens next." The humans were given a private room to discuss what had happened. Captain Jack paced back and forth, while Ambassador Wells made urgent calls to Earth. The rest of the delegation sat in stunned silence, occasionally glancing at Samantha as if she had turned into an alien herself. "Earth Command is in emergency session," Wells finally said, putting down her communicator. "They're trying to decide if this is a diplomatic crisis or an opportunity." "It's both," Jack replied. "The Drakari could crush us if they wanted to. But if they actually accept Sam as their leader..." Dr. Paul Grant, the mission's medical officer, had been scanning Samantha with various devices. "Your body chemistry has changed," he said, showing her the results on a small screen. "Your muscle density, reaction time, even your brain activity, they're all enhanced." "How is that possible?" Samantha asked. "I have no idea," Paul admitted. "But it happened right after Vexthor struck you. It's like your body analyzed the attack and adapted to it." Outside their room, they could hear the station buzzing with activity. News of Vex Thor's death had spread across the Confederation. Ships were arriving from nearby systems, bringing important leaders who wanted to see the human who had taken the Drakari throne. A gentle knock interrupted them. Zeke entered, looking nervous. "The Drakari Council is assembled," he said. "They await their new Supreme Commander." Samantha looked at Ambassador Wells, who nodded grimly. "We don't have much choice," she said. "You need to go." The council chamber was smaller than the Great Hall, but no less impressive. 12 Drakari elders sat around a circular table, their scales ranging from deep red to pale green. General Razik stood to greet Samantha as she entered. "The council has questions," he said simply, gesturing to an empty seat, larger than the others, and inlaid with precious metals. Samantha sat down, feeling small in the chair meant for Vex Thor's massive frame. "I have questions too," she replied. An elder with bright red scales spoke first. "How did you know the death touch?" "The knowledge of our neural weak point is our most guarded secret." "I didn't know," Samantha answered honestly. "My body reacted on its own. I've never fought anyone before today." The elders exchanged glances. Another one, female with elegant gold-patterned scales, leaned forward. "You speak truth," she said. "Our sense of smell tells us this, but your ignorance makes the event even more significant." "What do you mean?" Samantha asked. Razik answered, "There is an ancient prophecy among our people, that one day a being would come who could withstand the Drakari strike and return it with perfect knowledge. This being would lead us into a new age." Samantha almost laughed. "You think I'm part of a prophecy? I'm just a scientist who got lucky." "Luck is not a concept the Drakari recognize," the female elder said. "The universe moves with purpose." Outside the council chamber, the station continued to buzz with activity. In other rooms, representatives from dozens of worlds discussed what the change in leadership might mean. Many feared that a human supreme commander would favor Earth. Others hoped for an end to Drakari dominance. On a lower level of the station, in shadows away from monitoring systems, a group of young Drakari warriors gathered. At their center stood Kazdar, son of Vex Thor, his scales dark with rage. "My father ruled for 2 centuries," he said to his followers. "His throne should pass to me, not some soft-skinned alien who doesn't even understand our ways." "The ancient law is clear," one warrior replied cautiously. "She won by combat." "Then I will challenge her by combat," Kazdar hissed. "But not yet. First, we watch. We learn her weaknesses. Then we take back what is ours." Back in the council chamber, the elders had finished their questions. Samantha felt overwhelmed by the responsibility being placed on her. How could she lead a species she barely understood? "What happens now?" she asked Razik. The old general's expression was unreadable. "Now you rule, Supreme Commander. The galaxy watches to see what you will do with the throne you have taken." 1 week later, Samantha stood at the window of her new quarters, looking out at the stars. The Drakari had given her Vex Thor's private suite, a massive space filled with weapons, trophies, and strange artwork. She felt out of place among these reminders of the previous Supreme Commander's violent life. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Paul Grant entered, carrying a small device. The human delegation had been allowed to stay on Nexus Station as advisors to Samantha, though some had returned to Earth to report directly to the government. "I've been analyzing your blood samples," Paul said without greeting. They had become comfortable with each other over the last week. "The results are fascinating." "Tell me something I don't know," Samantha replied, turning from the window. Paul set up his device on a large table made from what looked like polished bone. It projected a 3D image of cells in motion. "Humans have always been adaptable. We survive in deserts, mountains, Arctic regions, but your cells show something different. They can rapidly evolve in response to threats." "Is that why I survived Vex Thor's attack?" Samantha asked. Paul nodded. "Your body analyzed the strike and immediately changed to withstand it. Then it went further, accessing genetic memory to find the perfect counterattack." "Genetic memory. That sounds like science fiction. So does becoming ruler of an alien species, Paul pointed out. I think all humans might have this ability, but it's never been triggered before. We've never faced threats like the Drakari. Their conversation was interrupted by another chime. This time, it was Razik who entered, followed by two younger Drakari carrying data tablets. Supreme Commander, the general said with a slight bow. The trade dispute between the Malvian and Oryx systems requires your attention, and the Confederation Assembly has requested your presence at tomorrow's session. Samantha sighed. More politics. Leadership is mostly politics, Razik replied. His tone was respectful but firm. Though he served her, he had also become her teacher in Drakari customs and history. Have you learned anything more about this prophecy? She asked as she reviewed the information on the trade dispute. Razik dismissed the younger Drakari with a gesture before answering. The prophecy comes from the time of awakening, 10,000 years ago. It speaks of a challenger who would absorb the strength of the Drakari and use it to transform the Confederation. Transform it how? Samantha asked. That part is unclear, Razik admitted, but many species see your rise as a chance for change. The Drakari have ruled through strength and fear for millennia. Some worlds hope for a gentler touch. Samantha had been learning quickly. The Confederation included over 200 inhabited systems, with the Drakari at the top of a strict hierarchy. Taxes and resources flowed upward, while military protection flowed downward. It was stable but harsh. And what do the Drakari think? She asked. Razik's expression remained neutral. Most accept you because of the ancient laws. Some see your arrival as fulfillment of the prophecy. Others resent a human taking the throne. Samantha finished for him. Like Hasdar. Razik's eyes widened slightly. You know of Vexthor's son. I make it my business to know my enemies, Samantha replied. Her week as Supreme Commander had changed her. She stood straighter, spoke more confidently. The strange energy that had filled her during the fight with Vexthor had not disappeared completely, but had settled into a constant alertness. He has gathered supporters, Razik confirmed, but he cannot challenge you yet. By law, a new Supreme Commander has 40 days of unchallenged rule. And then? Samantha asked. Then any Drakari of noble birth may challenge you to combat for the throne. Razik's yellow eyes met hers directly. Hasdar has trained for combat since hatching. He will not underestimate you as his father did. Samantha turned back to the window, looking at the stars that now fell under her protection and rule. Then I have 40 days to prepare, she said quietly. 40 days to understand what I've become and why it matters. 3 weeks into her rule, Samantha found herself in the deepest level of Nexus Station. Few people ever came to these ancient corridors. They had been built long before the current station, preserved as historical relics. Razik walked beside her, a torch lighting their way where the old power systems had failed. These records date back to the founding of the Confederation, the general explained. If there are answers about the prophecy, they will be here. Samantha had been searching for answers since her conversation with Paul. If humans had some kind of adaptive ability and genetic memory, where did it come from? Why had no one discovered it before? They reached a circular chamber with walls covered in strange symbols. In the center stood a pillar of black stone, its surface glowing faintly with blue light. This is the archive, Razik said with reverence. It holds the complete history of the Confederation, dating back 12,000 years. Samantha approached the pillar. How does it work? Place your hand on the surface. Think of what you seek. The archive will respond. Feeling slightly foolish, Samantha pressed her palm against the cool stone. To her surprise, it felt alive somehow, vibrating gently under her touch. She closed her eyes and thought about Earth, humans, the prophecy, and her strange new abilities. The blue glow intensified. Images began to appear in the air around them, projected from the pillar. Samantha gasped as she saw planets, star systems, and finally, Earth, but not the Earth she knew. This is impossible, she whispered. The images showed massive cities spanning entire continents, ships that looked like silver birds rising into space, humans, or beings very like humans, traveling among the stars. "What am I seeing?" she asked Razik. The old general watched with wide eyes. "The archive shows Earth as it was before the Great Darkness, 10,000 years ago." The images shifted to show a terrible war, planets burning, ships falling from the sky, and finally, Earth surrounded by a strange energy field, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. "I don't understand," Samantha said, removing her hand from the pillar. The images remained for a moment, then faded. "Are you saying humans had spaceflight 10,000 years ago?" "That's not possible. Our history doesn't show that." "Because it was erased," said a new voice from the chamber entrance. They turned to see an ancient Drakari female. Her scales faded to almost white with age. She moved slowly toward them, leaning on a staff made from some alien material. "Elder Sishva," Razik said with deep respect, bowing low. "We did not know you were on the station." "The awakening of the archive called me," she replied. Her eyes, still bright yellow despite her age, fixed on Samantha. "You have found the truth at last, human child." "What truth?" Samantha demanded. "Those images can't be real." "They are real," Sishva said. "Humans were not always confined to Earth. Once they ruled the stars. They were the founders of the Confederation, the most advanced species in the galaxy." "That's impossible," Samantha said, though she felt a strange certainty growing inside her. "During the Great Darkness, a terrible enemy came from beyond the galaxy," Sishva continued. "The humans fought to protect all species, but at terrible cost. In the final battle, they used a weapon that saved the galaxy but cut Earth off from space. It also erased the memory of space travel from your people's minds. And the Drakari took control after the humans disappeared," Razik added. "We became the new protectors of the Confederation." "Protectors?" Sishva's laugh was dry. "We became conquerors. We suppressed other species to prevent any from challenging us. We even destroyed records of human achievements, all except those locked in the archive, which cannot be erased." Samantha felt overwhelmed. If this was true, it changed everything she knew about human history. "And my abilities. The way I defeated Vexthor." "You carry the genes of the star travelers," Sishva said. "All humans do. But they remain dormant until triggered by extreme danger. Your people were warriors as well as builders, designed to adapt and survive." The 40 days passed quickly. Samantha spent every spare moment training, learning Drakari combat techniques under Razik's guidance. When she wasn't training, she studied the archive, recovering lost knowledge about Earth's forgotten history. The truth had spread through the Confederation, causing excitement and fear in equal measure. On the final day, she stood in the great hall where she had first encountered Vexthor. Now it was filled again, but this time everyone had come to witness the challenge. Kazdar stood across from her, his scales gleaming dark green in the light. He was younger and faster than his father, his body unmarked by the scars of battle. "You sit on a throne that is not yours," he called out so all could hear. "Today I reclaim it for the Drakari." Samantha wore a simple uniform rather than the ornate armor Vexthor had favored. In the weeks since taking command, she had made small but significant changes to how the Confederation operated. Trade restrictions had been eased, cultural exchanges encouraged. Many worlds supported her leadership, but the traditionalist Drakari had rallied around Kazdar. "I claim this throne by right of combat, as your own laws allow," she replied. Her voice was calm, but inside she felt the now familiar sensation of her body preparing for battle. Her muscles tensed, her senses sharpened. Ambassador Wells and the human delegation watched nervously from one side. Paul gave her an encouraging nod. They had learned much in the past weeks, but there was still so much they didn't understand about humanity's true past. Elder Sishva stepped forward, her ancient voice carrying surprisingly far. "The challenge is recognized. Combat will continue until one yields or falls." Begin. Kazdar attacked immediately, moving with blinding speed. His strategy was different from his father's. No circling, no talking, just pure aggression. His claws slashed toward Samantha's throat. But she was ready. The training with Razik had honed her newfound abilities. She dodged with equal speed, feeling as if time had slowed around her. Her body remembered movements it had never learned. The crowd gasped as the human female matched the Drakari warrior move for move. For several minutes they fought across the chamber, neither gaining advantage. Kazdar grew increasingly frustrated, his attacks becoming wilder. "You cannot win," he snarled. "You are not Drakari." "No," Samantha replied, ducking under a strike. "I'm human, and humans built this confederation before your ancestors took control." The words enraged him, as she had intended. Kazdar lunged forward with all his strength, claws extended for a killing blow. It was the opening Samantha had been waiting for. Instead of dodging, she stepped into his attack, catching his arm in a precise hold. Using his own momentum, she flipped the much larger alien over her shoulder. He crashed to the floor with tremendous force. Before he could recover, Samantha was on him, her fingers pressed against the same neural cluster she had struck on Vexthor. But this time, she didn't strike to kill. "Yield," she commanded. Kazdar struggled, but her position was perfect. Everyone in the hall knew she could end his life with the slightest pressure. "Kill me," he growled. "It is our way." Samantha shook her head. "Not anymore. The Confederation wasn't built on killing. It was built on cooperation, before the Drakari turned it into a tyranny." She raised her voice so all could hear. "I won't kill you, Kazdar." "That's not the human way." A murmur ran through the crowd. Mercy was not a concept the Drakari understood well, but many of the other species nodded in approval. "The old ways are changing," Samantha continued. "Humans have returned to the stars, and we bring with us the original vision of the Confederation. Worlds working together as equals, not masters and servants." She released Kazdar and stepped back, ready if he attacked again. But the young Drakari simply lay there for a moment, then slowly rose to his feet. "You have won," he said formally. "The throne remains yours." As the words left his mouth, the gathered representatives broke into cheers and worried whispers. Samantha stood tall, feeling the weight of history, both remembered and forgotten, on her shoulders. Humans had built this galactic community once before. Now they had a second chance to do it right. And Samantha Reeves, who had never sought power, would lead the way.